I'm gonna be honest. This game is not my favorite out of all of the Walking Dead games. This game, I would go so far to say, is almost forgettable in the mess of games I have platinumed at this point. It's one of the few games that I actually struggled to remember I did platinum. So when you have a whole show based on every platinum being memorable and every platinum meaning something, and therefore every platinum should be discussed and cherished, it's really hard to bring this one up. The Walking Dead has always been a series that values choice and values picking some of the hardest things in the world. Do you choose kindness versus vitality? Do you choose usefulness over kindness? Do you choose kindness over usefulness? Do you choose friends and family over surviving? How far are you willing to go to protect those? And when everything goes to shit and when there is no more anything, where are you going to fall? Are you going to be a hero? Or are you going to be a villain? I play these games always as I try to play them as how would the character do it? I felt like Lee was a good person. I felt like Clementine was trying to do her best. And then there's Javier. Javier feels just like this character who just misses the mark. And I think it's because you do have so much history with Lee. By the time the zombie apocalypse even starts, you have so much with Lee already. And I did play this on the channel because I am such a fan of The Walking Dead. So when The Walking Dead was coming out, New Frontier, I knew that I was gonna play it on the channel. I knew that this was going to be a game that I wanted to be a part of. And it feels like this game, had this game decided to be its own thing, I feel like it would have been a lot better. Because you do have Javier and you have all this, you have all of his character going on. You have the New Frontier basically becoming a cult in their own right. And what you could have is a really interesting story on survivability, like the 400 series, like the 400 days they did, like the Michonne story arc that they did. Had they just taken this and like, okay, this is a part of the world, and we'll throw references and this and that to everything else. And then you have this game, which very much stands on its own until you bring in Clementine in, and she's like, hey, remember me? I am awesome. And with the exception of a single reference to, I think his name is Gabe in this game. I'm not sure. I forgot. This game was almost scrubbed from The Walking Dead shit. So I do have to replay this game from beginning to end, and I know that on my second playthrough of all these games, I'm gonna pretty much be the biggest asshole imaginable, which is why you're starting to see me make choices here. Because I'm going for that more douchebaggery thing. I think this is episode. It's not episode 75. I think this is episode like 70-ish. So I'm gonna be replaying all these games for a specific video. I'm not gonna tell you which one because I think it'll be a nice little round storytelling, and I am a fan of that. But I feel like this game, they weren't quite sure how to go on without Clementine, and that's why this is the one where you meet Jesus. As he comes in, he's a huge character from the comics, was given a good amount of spotlight in the TV show, and he just isn't. This game isn't up to snuff, and it's upsetting. This is the game that kind of shows off that you really don't get to have a lot going on at Telltale. This was the first game that started showing the cracks in Telltale's formula. Because where they had this game that was a good premise and good on its own, the choice to include it with The Walking Dead and the choice to include Jesus and Clementine and not giving this game its own identity was where the cracks in their formula was most evident. This is the game that I feel like this is the game that just shows that they were always going to fail. And because that is a moment that's like, fuck yes. We could very easily have something great. But you don't. And it's so upsetting. It's something that I wish, this game just did better. Bunch of crunch lunch, dude. It was probably one of my favorite games to play on the channel, though. Like, I love playing these Walking Dead-esque these storytelling, decision-based games. I love playing them on the channel, just because by the end, our stories can be so completely different. They really amuse me. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I am stretching this video and this concept out to 10 minutes. Not because I wanted that sweet ad revenue, because YouTube won't give it to me. But because I do think that this game warrants discussions. Like, had they just made a Walking Dead game, would have been fine. Put in the same universe, like Fear the Walking Dead, would have been fine. Because this is interesting, right? A Spanish family going through bunch of lunch. It's interesting, like how different cultures kind of face it. It's interesting. So, where did this game go wrong? I think it's an over-reliance on characters we already knew. I think it's a lack of faith in direction of where the game could have gone. And I think it's just the fact that there's so much in this game that just isn't allowed to grow. Yeah, it is Gabe. That isn't allowed to come to its fullest. It's disappointing. Because this is a good setup. It shows they have the ability to be interesting. You know what I mean? Anyway. With this game, I kind of tip my hat to the Walking Dead series. This is the last original independent game I have to talk about on the show. And I have loved this game. I've loved this everything. And he was hoping that come the future, someone else would pick up the mantle and make these kinds of games. We're looking to supermassive games now with their Dark Anthology series. We're looking to fucking Don't Nod with Life is Strange. We're now looking to these other two completely different companies to kind of fill this hole. And it's a hole that, you know, Walking Dead left and created and made. It's kind of interesting when you think about it. Like, no one was really clamoring for all these games, and then Telltale came in, was like, hey, we have these games. And they was like, oh, okay. We want those games now, and now we need those games. It's one of these things that Telltale themselves Telltale themselves have been an interesting case, because they created a place for trophy hunters that these are probably the easiest games you could ever play for a trophy. But because there's a story and because there's emotional weight behind them, they don't feel easy. They are given this weight and there's so much more that's like, oh shit, with them. They kind of give them this pass, and now that space is empty. You know, with the Life is Strange games and Don't Nod storytelling games, you gotta put in the work of getting the collectibles. When you look at fucking Supermassive Games and the Dark Anthology series, you have to go and do 100% of everything. You know, you have to get every ending, you have to do all this other stuff. So there are easily these games that have kind of created a mess. And that being said, you know, I don't want to give just complete shit to this game, because I absolutely love Kate as a character. I feel like if there was anything they wanted to take from this, just besides like the tattoo of AJ on Clem's hand and the one reference to the game you get, I wish they would have taken Kate. I wish we would have gotten this, just see the couple of these characters come into the final season. Even if it was just like a cameo, you know, because even the antagonist is, you know, from the first season. You have that one dream sequence in like the very last chapter. So, I wish this game was just treated better, but now with this game we wrap up the Telltale series. Well, not wrap up. There's still like a couple. We will wrap up Telltale The Walking Dead series. What I meant to say. But now we have this other place. It's gonna be interesting to see where the gaming industry goes from here. Where these short-lived story games go. But that's all I got. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. And if you're wondering, I acknowledge this platinum. I give it a nod. The story wasn't as good. Nothing was quite as good. So I just give it a little hat nod. See you guys.